Hey, good evening, guys. This is Krishna Joshi here with 7 Points Capital. I'm going to bring you today's trader takeaways. What an exciting day. A lot of craziness going on in the markets. Wild, volatile moves in everything except the SPYs and the Qs. So looking at SPYs, fairly muted action, even in terms of volume, not the biggest volume day, like 48 million shares, which is on the lower side. But as expected, not a lot of earning names going on. We had Oracle yesterday, but that's about it. Today we had CPRT, just one company announcing names. So uh, as you can see, small range on the SPY, just about 50 cents, which is barely a quarter of a percent. But the stocks in news, the hot stocks are the pot stocks, which is TLRY, CRON, CGC, and we added a couple more names, which is IGC and NBEV to the list of stocks that we were buying and selling and whatnot today. So let's jump into individual names. I'm going to start off with TLRY because the stock had a massive gap up. Just rallies all the way after hours, just rallies pre-market. It's up like 40% after hours. Um, Even up a huge amount. Let's look at this closing, which was 153. It closed at about 175. That's 20 points, and then it just gaps up from 173 to 239 in the morning. That's the pre-market high. So we came in the morning, already had been trading at pre-market, a couple of long setups, already in the morning on the break of 225. Quick cover in the pops, but looking at the open, which was the crazy part in this one. So it opens at 235 and it sold off right. It sold off 55 points to 180. So absolutely missed this one. I'm still looking at what's really going on. Why is this stock just absolutely getting annihilated, just selling off 50, 55 points in the morning and then waiting for a bounce? We're seeing if this one wants to bounce. And once it does, once it gets much calmer and steady, I ended up shorting this at 202, added some just below 202, and ended up having a quick cover into this dip. And I think in the 182s. And then what we saw was the stock just bottomed at 175 and a weak bottom, right? Absolutely came back all the way. Um, so it pulled back from 175 to 225, which is 50 points in about 15 minutes. That was absolutely crazy. So I ended up having of my first short setup here and just left it alone because I still don't know how much further this wants to pull back. And I've started up shorting this in the 212, 210 area, um, and then got a nice quick wash. Only covered half of it. In fact, wanted to add more on the pullback, right? But as you can see, this wanted to start breaking the trend line. And what I did was, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be um, shorting it all the way without knowing how much further this wants to go, because I did try to uh, see where it wants to hold. So if this one wants to go back all the way, now I'm actually took off my other half for a small loss. Ended up having a nice wash on this one, but took a small loss on the other half. And then now I'm looking at long setups because I want to point out to the exact timestamp, which is between 10:30 and 10:45, which is TLRY had a massive 50-point range, just got steady and comes right back up. Let's look at CGC between 10:30 and 10:45, doing absolutely nothing, right? Lower high versus the pre-market. It did not have the crazy 20% swing like TLRY, but let's look at CRON. So this one was absolutely beast. Between 10:30 and 10:45, this was not only just going sideways and up, this one just broke out of it. So the stock was gapping up about 8%, and then it just absolutely took off and ended up being up like 25, 27% on the day. So this was the first time we started looking at the long setup in CRON. Whereas I'm still thinking, all I'm trying to do is stop myself from shorting TLRY because you don't know how much further it wants to go up, because 240 was one level we had in mind from the pre-market, but CRON absolutely took off, right? So I ended up getting only a third of my size on the break of this ascending triangle. We were discussing the setup on the desk. One of the guys from the New York desk, which is Shank, who's on Twitter, really great trader. he called out the setup. He said nice ascending triangle on this one, and he ended up missing out on this because we were just looking at how the other stocks are doing, which was doing absolutely nothing. Ended up having a small feeler on this, and then ever since the breakout at 1325, which was around 10:45 in the morning, now all I'm doing is looking at long setups, looking at long setups in CRON and TLRY. Let me just give you much more on the day. Before we go into that craziness, let's look into the 10:45 now. TLRY at that 215 wants to start breaking up. So this is when I start looking at these long setups, keep taking 4 or 5 points on the way up, look at sideways consolidation, and then the break of the wedge. As you can see, you can draw these small wedges. It breaks for about 5 or 7 points and then comes right back up. And the one thing that I kept telling myself was you don't have to chase it on the way down and on the way up. Just wait for the sideways, the wedges, and then the moment it breaks those, look at the long setups on the break of those wedges. This is what I'm talking about. All throughout the day, this is what it kept doing, and then just started making new bases. And right around here, which was when I started accumulating a whole lot in the 227, 28, and 230 area. That was my final buy on the long side. And then I just had my orders out, everything just below 240, which was the pre-market high, all-time high, and double top on the intraday. So I ended up selling everything at 37.80, in fact, and that was about it. And then what happened right at the break of 240 is it takes out a whole lot of stops. Look at the volume on the break of 240. Massive volume, absolutely. Look at this one right there. So it breaks through the 240 right here, makes a new high, goes up 5 points and comes right back down. And then again, what does TLRY do? Set up on the long side. Just all of these wedges, and then and at this point, all I was thinking is how much further does this want to go? Because this is just getting crazier, and the stock is wild, absolutely. And it just it held it at 270. And then the next thing you see is 280, 82, 90. And that's what I put on my first short at 292. And I'm like, this has got to stop at some point, and I'm going to give myself a chance against the 298 high. So it hit 297, 95, ended up shorting 92s, 93s. It went sideways and then makes a new high at 300. So I ended up covering some of it at the break of 298, but added right back. I'm like, 300 is going to hold. I couldn't see a huge offer on the tape, but I could see was that it was printing a lot of orders in between the bid and the ask. The spread opened up. So all I was doing was putting out orders to sell at 298, 297.99, something like that, just to make sure I get an entry on it, and ended up getting an amazing nice wash on it. And I just took everything right here as it went into the limit down. So this is the first limit down, and it's holded for about 10 minutes. The stock opens down here, and I ended up shorting 245s. We saw a quick 15-point wash. In fact, I did not cover everything, and I took it for a small loss right here. So I ended up taking a pretty much break even or a small loss, 0.5 point to 1 point loss, and then it's a limit up, and then the stock goes sideways, reopens, and then this is where I want to attack it full size now. So I'm shorting in the 252s, shorting much lower at 245s, 242. So my average price was about 246, 47. Goes into limit down, so I'm holding myself. I know that the level of limit down, which is 225, and I want to see it just absolutely collapse. So the stock goes limit down for 10 minutes, opens down, and the first wick down into 192 and comes back to 96. I just hit the offer at 196, and that's what I got out for everything. So it ended up being a decent trade right from the top, and that was like pretty much it. The one easy tell on this was between 230 and 245, or let's say between 230 and 3, when TLRY actually did that crazy move. CRON did not actually go up. It actually made a lower high. Look at this. Absolutely just lower. and then the stock just started selling off. So this is at 250 is when TLRY tops out, which is right around here at 300 on TLRY, whereas CGC is making a new low, which is making a lower low, and then just absolutely sold off. So the stock, which was up about 25 to 27%, pretty much went to up only 2% on the day. So it gave back 20% gains on the day, and it's still active in the after hours. And let me show you CGC, which was not up huge, which was still up about 5% or so, ended up hitting SSR on the day. So weaker stock, which was CGC, just absolutely made this divergence with TLRY and just sold off, like absolute massive capitulation, and then the stock just collapsed to 46.50. We're gonna look at levels on the lower side, which will be like 46, which is one area to bounce off, and then I'm looking at 43 tomorrow, and further levels on the way down. So this was the three crazy stocks, and the final one that I was watching was NBEV, where there are rumors of buying of stake by other beverage companies. So I ended up trading this in the pre-market. I had a nice short at 315. I had a good decent cover at 304, 305.6, but the stock didn't want to go down any further, and then I ended up taking the rest for a break even right around here. So I ended up shorting pre-market, covered for a break even on the other half, and a small short position right off the open. Good cover in the pre-market lows, and the stock just absolutely took off. It goes sideways. This is again one of the other hyped stocks like TLRY. It's also a low float former runner, so the low float guys are also pretty active. A lot of chat room pumps going on in this one. So right around the 4 mark, I see like lot of huge offers, but the offers are getting taken out. Like it's taking 2-3 attempts, but it's getting taken out. So I ended up buying the 4s, ended up selling into this pop up into the 20s, and this was my first short in NBEV. Ended up shorting for a nice shorted around the 4 mark. Ended up getting everything out at 380. This is before TLRY makes a new high. So between 230 and 3, which is when TLRY is making new highs, this is again diverging like the other two stocks. And this one just absolutely sold off as well. So I ended up getting a nice short on NBEV as well. Ended up shorting 445, which looks like definitely a chase on the short side. But what happened at this point was I got a small short position in CRON, small short in CGC, and TLRY is halted, right? So now while that is halted for the first hold, which was 10 minutes, I'm looking at other stocks to short. So I ended up shorting 445, which was a chase, but got a nice wash in this, and ended up covering like half of it at 430 and the other half into the 413 area, which is right around here. And after that, waiting for a bounce into the 445, 450 area, got a nice wash again and covered this one. I think I covered definitely much earlier into the 420s on this one, but should have been a much bigger win. But nonetheless, I was looking at what other stocks can I trade, can I short while TLRY is halted. So looking at that, TLRY CEO who was on CNBC yesterday said eventually we're going to see a lot of drug companies tying up with pot names, which is all of these guys, right? But that reminds me that GWPH is already a stock which it's a pharma company which is doing exactly the same. The stock has been wild in the past because of the phase 2 data out, phase 3 data out, positive data, clinical data not as expected. But eventually they have got the approval. The stock's already doing exactly what TLRY expects it to do, which is why in the last few days when these pot stocks are taking off, so did GWPH, which is from 138 area to 166 today. And I did not show this, we did not even have a borrow on this, but this is definitely on my list. I'm going to be watching this tomorrow. Every chance to get short on the tops and these ones, along with a nice divergence in the other pot stocks. I'm going to keep this on my radar. So definitely a busy, wild, and a volatile day as far as these pot stocks are concerned. Ended up being a wild P&L swings as well, but nonetheless got decent moves on TLRY, CRON, and CGC. They're also pretty active in the after hours. So let's see how these play out in the after hours till 8 p.m. and in the pre-market tomorrow. So thanks again for watching, guys. This is Krishna Joshi with 7 Points Capital, and keep watching, liking, and subscribing. This is Krishna Joshi with for trader takeaways at 7 Points. Thanks, guys.